One, two, three, four.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to school. But don't worry, everything is cool. I'm your host, Jalissa, and of course, we have the boys here, Steve and Brandon. Say what's up, you guys.
What's up?
And we have a special guest today. We got Stephanie Nena Aquino. I said that right?
Nena.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Good.
Stephanie Nena Aquino.
Hi, everyone.
I said that right now. But welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. How are you doing? How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Just graduated, so
Congratulations.
I have so much
Powerful.
time in my hands. Yeah,
That's good.
I'm invincible.
Nice. What did you major in?
Psychology.
Oh, nice. That's cool. Okay. So I know Steve gave us a little bit of info about you. So I know you do like modeling.
Mm-hmm.
So have you been doing that for a cool bit, or like, can you tell us about, I guess, your journey and like where you're from and everything about you?
So I'm originally from South Central LA. I was born and raised in LA as well. Modeling is an unexpected journey. It's one that I've never really imagined myself to take on. It kind of happened on accident. I always tell people that. So I follow this page on Instagram, Shoutout to Color La Mexicana. And the owners, Daniel and Eliana, they contacted me to do one of their like shoots for their clothing brand. And I was kind of like taken aback because it was the first time like someone's actively like seeked out like to me to like model for their brand. And so I was really nervous. I was like, what the fuck is modeling? Like, what do you even do? Like, how do you even pose? Like, you know? But they were super sweet. They were super dope. And I think one thing that I've noticed that I do like is when like photographers in general, like give good energy or like good direction, especially because it was my first time. Like, I think if I was just thrown in there, like not knowing what to do and like not getting any sort of feedback from a photographer, it would have come out really different. So that was back like in, I want to say like maybe 2021 or even 2020. I'm not sure because I still remember we were in the pandemic when that happened. But yeah, that was really cool. That was really fun. And then it kind of like stalled for a bit because, because of COVID and then like everything happening. It wasn't until last year, February. So I followed this brand called Bella Doña. And I've always been a big fan of their work, just anything that they stand for, and like everything that they put out is super cute. It's very homegirl, very LA, and which is what I really love. And so I shot with them in February, and then everything just launched after that. And everything after that was just back to back to back. And I was a full-time student then, so I kind of had to like navigate my coursework with like shoots and stuff as well, which meant a lot of traveling back and forth from Riverside to LA or like anywhere else. Even like right now for castings, I have to go to LA to castings and stuff. And that was just, it's been an experience. I definitely did experience a little bit of burnout because just so much driving, and then like financially too, gas is expensive.
Yeah.
At some point gas almost reached at least $6 in Riverside. So that was bad. And yeah, it's just been a journey, an unexpected one, but a fun one.
That's cool. So you really like doing what you're doing?
Yes, I do. It's really cool, especially taking up space. So that's one thing that like has been really interesting for me to see. So like when I first got asked to do like a big brand, like for a cosmetics brand, I was really nervous because this is like the first time that, they gave me a call sheet. I had to do a contract, fill out a W-4, and like all these things were very new to me that I had no one to teach me how to fill out. So I had to figure it out on my own. And so walking into the spaces, you're looking at the people around there, and it's like, yeah, there's some diversity, but sometimes majority of the time, like the creative like directors and stuff, they're not people that look like us, or they're not people that know about like the culture and stuff, like so like seeing and like being part of the space, being very visibly brown with like very visible brown features, it kind of took me back a little, where I was like, oh, am I even meant to be here? Like, should I be here? Like, this is so weird. Like, do they think that I'm a PA and not the model? Because there's definitely been moments like that where you've been like, oh, can you get this? And I'm like, girl, I'm like, I'm a talent. Like,
Yeah,
go get it yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
Yeah.
I love taking space. Like now
That's
I don't feel bad. It's like
Mhm.
I'm meant to be here for a reason. Like
Yeah.
if it was not meant to be, then I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But it is. So
That's so funny. I was gonna ask you about that before today too, because I looked up before you came, like, what's the percentage of people who are like Latina, Hispanic that are like fashion models, and I looked up, it's 13.1%. So
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. Like you don't see people like us who are like in that space. So
yeah,
that's cool that you really
don't.
embrace.
And then you see an even smaller percentage who are indigenous.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, my dad's Mixteco, and so like I do identify like as indigenous as well. So even like going up like beyond like just like Latina people, you know, there's even a lesser percentage of like indigenous representation in modeling. I mean, you know, we see it more in like in Mexico and stuff where like a lot of more indigenous models are taking up space in Vogue.
Yeah.
That's my dream, by the way. Vogue, please scout me.
Shout out.
Shout out
I
Vogue
know.
Mexico.
They'll watch this.
But yeah, but I am seeing it more like a lot of, you know, my indigenous friends like in the community as well. They're doing it and they're doing it big. And I don't know, like
Yeah.
representation for all of us, period.
Yeah. For
Period.
sure. So would you say, how do you identify yourself? So are you like, would you say you're a Latina model or like an indigenous model? Like what's the way that you Chicana? Yeah. Like which?
It's been so it's a struggle for me.
Yeah.
Identity has always been a struggle for me, not like especially when it comes to like saying what I am.
Mm-hmm.
So for the longest I did identify like as Latina or like Latino, but and then at some point even like Chicana.
Mm-hmm.
But like as of lately more like I've kind of just been digging my indigenous roots more.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been kind of, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like just trying to do like more research on like what it is to be reconnecting.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's the word. Like reconnecting, definitely. Because, you know, my dad, he does have his native language. And like, you know, where we're from, like everyone in his family, like his older siblings, majority, they speak their native language. We went to Mexico, like our grandpa, like, you know, he wrote down like some of his words in his native language. And so really reconnecting to that is been like an experience in itself as well, just because, you know, when you do get casted, you get casted as like the Latina talent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like it kind of just feels weird to me. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't know what to identify as. It's just such a weird like
that's super relatable. I mean, I remember even being in college before I really had this like awakening of like trying to reconnect with our heritage. I remember it was I think it was, what was it, Christopher Columbus Day? What do they call it? Indigenous People Day now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember it's Christopher Columbus Day, and I remember I asked the teacher like, oh, like, are we gonna have like the day off? And he went in on me about how like, oh, you know, like we're celebrating like a colonizer and like all this like this genocide and stuff. And I was like, no, I know that. I mean, it's my people like understand that, like that's where I come from. Mm-hmm. And I remember a student told me, it's like, what do you mean? Like you're Mexican, like you're not like an indigenous person. And at the time I wasn't fully aware of like what was saying, so I just allowed that to happen. But I think about that moment like all the time, like it replays like all the time whenever I think about like that. It's crazy that there's a lot of people out here who aren't even aware of like our cultural background like that. You know, like you said, like a lot of people more identify with Latino and Latina, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that if they feel as though like, you know, when they're not educated enough to kind of call themselves an indigenous person. But like it's stuff like that where it like I think it's important that like you show the representation and we continue to have conversations about the identity as like a Mexican American.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I feel like I'm in the same boat of like I'm also trying to figure out my own identity, because I also don't like identifying as Latina. Like I never really liked it, even as at a young age, or a younger age. I never really liked saying that. That's why I would always just identify as like Mexican, or I would say like I'm Mexican American, but people would just like categorize me in being Latina, right? Not until recently, now that I'm in the same like journey where I'm trying to reconnect with like my roots. Because our parents are like from Puebla, which is like predominantly like
my family's from Puebla too.
Oh, nice. What part?
I told them. I think I did my research a little bit, and I was like, "You're from Puebla, right?"
What part of your?
Well, we're from like I have family now in La Ciudad, but we're from like the pueblos, like the little pueblitos and stuff. I don't know if you're familiar with Huehuetlán del Grande.
No.
Do you know?
I just know like
Aclisco
I
or,
know Aclisco or like La Soledad Morelos or like what is it?
Tlaxcala?
Matamoros? No, something. It has something in the beginning, but I always forget the beginning. But it's like Matamoros. I want to say it's like Azúcar de Matamoros, but I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that. But yeah, so like I've been trying to like reconnect to I guess that part because my parents are fairly like indigenous and like our grandma, she used to speak the Nahuatl language, so like so they're very like indigenous there, and like our great grandma also used to talk to my dad like in her like native tongue, and my dad didn't get to learn it that much, and it didn't really get passed down that much to us. But for me, I've always been like, especially now when the thing is that when you say like, oh, you're a Latina in this or you're a Latina in this, and I am always like, I don't like saying that, and I do want to also connect to saying like Chicana, but I feel like I don't know enough of like the history of like within like the Chicano movement and all that to like self-identify with that. So then sometimes I'm like, I feel like I want to reconnect more to like my indigenous roots. So I want to say like I'm an indigenous person in this, because I feel like me saying that is continuing like I guess our history, and like if I say like Latina, I feel like I'm kind of erasing that part of me.
Yeah, that's like the confliction that I've had too with Latina, Latino.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I just don't like it.
Yeah. And that's why I feel like I want to reconnect to that, because I don't want to continue with the erasure of our indigenous roots. And that's why in the same thing of like I mostly work in sports, right? So there it's predominantly, you know, like I don't see a lot of people like me. So I do also get the same thing of like, do I belong here? Do I deserve to be here? Like, I feel like sometimes I didn't do enough work to get to where I am. But in the end, it's kind of like, bro, like nobody like gave this to me. Like my parents didn't know anything. Like my dad's a mechanic. Like he's nowhere to be in the sports industry. So how is it that I got in? So it's like, I did my work.
Funny,
I did my hard work. Like I got in. Like that was me. I did all those things.
Exactly.
And so yeah, so like I can really, I feel what you're saying. So but that's cool. That's cool that you are also like trying to reconnect, because I guess we're on the same journey.
Yeah.
We are. Honestly.
Yeah, we really all are.
Really are.
Yeah, which is cool.
It's hard too, because like the same thing, like I don't really like the Latina or Latina like description, but like it's hard because sometimes when you want to talk to other people, that's kind of the term people mainly know.
Yeah.
So like to like say like in like an indigenous person and have to explain the whole thing, it's like just like conveniently more to just say Latino, Latina, and that's what it like even frustrates me more. It's because it's like I wish it was that easy, right? It's like
sometimes you let it slide and you just go through this whole thing of like explaining. Like,
you didn't have the energy today, and I'm like, whatever, I guess,
sure,
yeah,
whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
No, I was thinking of the same thing, because I was like, I can just say like, oh, I'm a Latina or whatever, but I feel like now us continuing to do that is just like having them like settle for that. But I think it's like more a disservice, of like, almost. Like now I think it is that we should be saying those things, like we should be calling them out. It's kind of like when they say about your name, when they're like, oh, like for me they call me like Julissa, but it's actually Julissa. They're like, you should say the proper way to say your name. Right? True.
Like I had that with my last name, like for as long as I can remember. It's Aquino, but every single time like I would have like, you know, white teachers be like Aquino, Aquino, like bro, it's Aquino. Yeah. And even then, like after repeating it so many times, it'll be like, I'll just say it like this.
Yeah. Like, you like settle. You're like, okay, whatever. I'm not gonna.
I don't settle no more. I make them say it right. I'm like Aquino.
Yeah. No, I remember in school when we would have like sub teachers, no one could like say my name. Like, I don't know, just because the way, they were like Jelisa. Because I don't know, I guess they just don't know how to like pronounce it, because it's like July and then SSA. So people were like Jelisa or something. I'm like, oh, it's Jelissa. And then they're like, how? Or sometimes even me saying Jelissa, they can't like hear it. Like they're like, okay. And then I'm like, okay.
I feel like they do it on purpose though.
They have something personally
against you. They have something, no, like it's dead ass though. Like I think like they're able to pronounce like a lot of like European sounding names and like a lot of like, but as soon as they see like some form of ethnic name, I feel like everything in their head just goes out the window, and they just like, I don't know. I think they do it on purpose.
No,
It's
no,
just
no,
no, go ahead.
no, definitely. I just kind of wanted to jump in just a little bit because it's applicable. Because part of the book that I was reading, they talk about how the term Latino came about during the Nixon administration, and it was very purposeful because it lumped in Mexicans, Cubans, and I want to say I can't remember.
Italians or something?
No, not Italians, but it lumped in a lot of Latin America, and one of the purposeful point of that was. Cubans tend to be very conservative. So it was purposeful because then they could target their politics and stuff towards getting the Latino vote. And it's just, I thought it was just really interesting that it was kind of purposeful. And the author kind of goes into that's why a lot of young indigenous people are a little confused over what to call themselves because it was very effective in lumping everybody together, but yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's where Hispanic and Latino kind of came because there was a lot of the Spaniards still here, so that's where Hispanic came from. Yeah, I hate.
Yeah,
if I don't like Latino,
Hispanic,
I hate,
bro. Don't ever call me Hispanic.
I don't like Hispanic.
If I don't like Latino,
that word.
I hate Hispanic.
Hispanic's on a different level of offensive.
I feel you, bro. You call me Hispanic,
yeah.
No, yeah. It also goes on to add that I guess earlier in Los Angeles history, a lot of Mexican food places and businesses and stuff like that were very often referred to as Spanish, and it was trying to appeal to the more Eurocentric aspect of their roots. So I think it was just going on to add why there's so much confusion and a lot of I don't know what the word is, but why people feel so confused about their identity and stuff like that. I just thought it was interesting that there's it's not accidental. It's on purpose. They kind of do this on purpose. You mentioned Hispanic and stuff is because it was easier. It seemed less foreign. It seemed more and they talk about how when you hear accents and names that are French or something very European, but then when you hear the accent of a Mexican person or their last name sounds a little too indigenous, it's referred to as foreign, it's weird, but yeah, pretty interesting stuff.
No, yeah, because I have friends who have indigenous names. I'm sure you guys do too. And then they talk about all the time how they grew up and they were oh yeah, people would come up with these nicknames for me, and I just wish people would say my actual name. And I think that's a good point where you're bringing up about how they'll hear European names and they'll be able to say all these complex names, but when it comes to something with a little bit more of an ethnic background, they completely just give up and they won't do it. It is definitely because if you look at our systems and the birth of our nation here in the United States, it was all led through a white supremacist mindset. The founding fathers had slaves, bro. It's not a far it's not a stretch to be obviously our society has been more shifted towards European favored things.
No, yeah, and especially because I always had the issue with my name. It's always cool because I feel when I see other I guess foreign or ethnic names, I always try my best to pronounce them as best as I can, and I always surprise people when I can do the proper pronunciation or if I can spell it correctly. It's always cool because they're always so happy about it. They're oh my god, nobody ever knows how to spell my name, and you know how to do it. And I was yeah, I don't know, it's not that
it's I got you.
Yeah.
Because the name's a big part. I mean, if you look at my name, right? My name's Steve. One of the biggest parts about why my parents named me Steve is because my mom thought that I would succeed if I had a white person name. And I think it's funny too because I always bring it up. But my last name is Martinez anyway, so I mean, even though that's a Spaniard last name, you couldn't really hide the identity that I carry either way. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why I was named Steve. Because if you look at my family, my sister's name is Jalissa, my brother's name is Valentin, my mom's name is Elvia. They all have super kind of Latin flavored names, and I just have Steve. Yeah. Well,
it's always funny going down the names, and then it just ends with Steve.
Yeah.
But it's unique. It makes the family a little unique.
Yeah. I mean, I like my name either way.
I love my dad's name. I feel I never really hear people with my dad's name. His name is Salustio.
Salustio?
Yeah.
How do you spell that?
Salustio. Salustio.
Yeah, I don't think I've
I've
never met anybody. I've never met anybody named Jalissa either.
I've met a couple people, but they just don't spell it the same as me.
Oh, they put an I instead of the Y.
Yeah.
Huh?
Or a one S. I've seen that.
No, yeah.
Yeah, but I've never seen someone with my exact same spelling. So comment if you do.
Shout out to everybody who has a unique name that people never pronounce. Make sure you make people pronounce that shit.
Yeah, tell them, you know.
Tell them and correct them so they say it right.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then going a little bit off of like that, I guess one last question for me. In what way do you hope to use like your platform or influence as a model to make a positive impact or bring attention to important causes?
Definitely representation. I think like just in the past couple of years, there's been more brown representation in media, whether it's modeling or like in catalogs or just on social media, like influencers in general. So I definitely want to keep doing that. I want to continue being like, you know, that brown representation for people. You know, I have gotten messages from people and like DMs saying that, hey, like, you know, like I showed my daughter like your picture with your trenzas and like with the listones, and you know, she was like, Mom, like I want braids too now. And I just feel like getting messages like that just makes my, you know, my heart warm, because it's like I remember being little, you know, being very visibly brown again. My mom, she never like she never gave me bad like stigmas with my skin. So my mom, she's a little bit more lighter than me, but she's always been like mi morenita, you know, like she always did my braids. So my mom was the first introduction to me being like comfortable with braids and stuff all the time. And my dad, he's also very brown with very like indigenous features. Like, you know, I got his nose and like his thick hair and like thick eyebrows. And so all my brothers, like, you know, we're all visibly brown. And so I feel like if like someone like a younger person like sees that like on the covers, like on billboards and like anywhere in social media, like a healthy representation of like that brown is beautiful, then why not? Like I definitely want to keep doing that, you know, because we didn't have that growing up. It was like stereotypes and, you know, just not good looks for us. So
or we were always in the background.
Always in the background, and sometimes we did it better. But, you know, they didn't want us in the front. So if, you know, if like myself and like my, you know, my friends that I've made in the community could be like at the forefront of these things, then why not? Like we're just opening up more doors.
It was cool. I saw on your page, you have the one with your trenzas with your mom, right? Yeah, that one was cool.
Oh, that was such a fun shoot. It was really dope.
Yeah, the pictures were beautiful. I was like, wow. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it's them like with the braids. I was like, wow. And then I saw the comment that it was you and your mom, and I was like, wow, because it reminds me of like my mom too, because like she also used to do like my trenzas, and I used to have like ribbons. I think when I forget what grade it was, but we had like our class pictures, and there's one of me with like my trenzas and like I have ribbons on them. My mom used to do like all that for me before. It was more like my mom was doing it more for me, and then I would mostly hear like in school when people would be like, you're weird for that kind of thing. But like my mom was always trying to make me like, I guess, do all the like my trenzas. Like she would do my hair all the time. When I was younger, she especially like in like preschool and kindergarten, she used to do it all the time. She even won an award for like, because I would have like best hair. Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah,
you know,
so it was
one
cool.
thing, like my mom always made sure, she always tells us to this day, so like, aunque yo me mire fodonga, like all my kids are gonna look like presentable. So I think I took on after that still, even like as a grown up, where I don't care if I'm going to the store, like I'm gonna get ready. It's a whole experience. It's a whole ritual, like getting ready, you know, doing my hair. So like every time I do braids, you know, I always do with good intentions and like good thoughts, because I don't know, like for me, my hair is very sacred, and I just don't let anybody touch my hair, point blank, period. Even my mom to this day is the only one who trims my hair. She's the only one I let trim my hair. I don't know, energy.
No, I've heard that your hair does hold energy. That's why a lot of people do like haircuts and stuff, because like sometimes your hair holds a lot of like energy. So sometimes people also do it when like they go through like breakups, because they're like, oh, their hair is like holding on to all that, so that's why they do a lot of that.
They shave their head and shit.
Yeah. I want to shave my head. No, just kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
No, even my mom, I remember growing up, my mom always liked when I would grow my hair out. And as a kid, I had it even longer than I had it here. She would always tell me that in her like hometown, the like, I don't know, the myth or the belief was that men who had longer hair were smarter. So my mom always liked that I had my hair longer. Yeah. So that's why I still kind of keep it long. It gets pretty messy. I probably don't put as much care as you do, but you inspire me to do that now.
Yeah. No, me too. I don't get that ready, and especially because I have a lot of hair. For me, it's just like always trying to do something, my arms just get really, really tired. And I'm like,
I feel like my lats have gotten like more toned because I'm always doing like my hair and stuff, but I'm always holding like a ponytail right here. It's heavy.
Yeah.
It's a new workout.
I always get a headache
a
by the end.
workout.
By the end of the day, I always get a headache.
Take
I'm
a
always
Tylenol.
Take a Tylenol. What is it? Beauty's pain.
Beauty's pain.
I gotta do that. Bruh.
That's
No,
true.
yeah, but it's cool. And then I was thinking about something else where like, I remember my mom would always do my hair, and then sometimes she would forget to do Stevie's hair. So then we were walking out, she's like with her saliva, she's like, oh shit, like, mijo, no te peiné, no me dijiste.
My mom would take forever on you, I remember.
Yeah.
And then we'd go to like middle school and I'd be my hair would be all fucked up.
Bro, my mom did that for me from like preschool to like 8th grade. Like I never let her like stop doing it until like high school, but I always was fine with it because I was like, well, while she's doing my hair, I can eat. So I would be eating while she's like pulling my hair. And I thought it was fine, and I feel like my mom really enjoyed like doing my hair. So I was kind of like, if it's her thing, it's her hobby, you know, she enjoys like playing with my hair, like I'll let her play for it as long as she can. And then eventually I was in like high school and I was like, no more, mom. I'm gonna do my own hair now.
I see there's a connection, I guess, like what mothers and daughters in the hair. It's like a big connection or what?
Yeah, well, because
Yeah.
it's kind of like your dolls, you know, like when you're young, you're playing with your dolls and you like braid
I
their
don't
hair.
know
or,
about
stuff
like
that.
your mom, but my mom, she was not gentle with my hair.
Oh, no.
Growing up, it was
No.
like Sakateki. Shoo,
Yeah.
shoo.
That's why I always had like she would always have it
Facelift.
back. Yeah, facelift. That's why they always thought I was Asian, bro, because my hair was so pulled back. That
I
it
look
was just,
Filipino when my hair's up, dude. I've
Yeah.
been told before, like, are you Filipino? I'm like, no.
No,
bro.
yesterday we were setting up something at work, and it had like one of those like bolas, and it's like you do it like that, and we were like, bro, did you guys ever experience when your mom had the bolitas?
And it snapped.
Yeah, and it snapped and hit you right in the head. I was like, yeah,
That shit.
all the time. That shit hurt, especially because she's like stretching it, and then
imagine
boom.
just like, yeah.
It hits you like right on the head.
It was painful.
But it was cool. I want to bring those back. I want to start wearing those again.
I
Like
wear
the
them all.
little,
I
like-
wear them most of the time, like the little white bolita ones. Sometimes
really?
I just like add like a little accessory
Yeah.
here and there.
Yeah, my mom used to buy them at like Los Callejones. All the
Oh,
time.
really?
Yeah.
Like,
So when
Callejones
she would
are
come-
expensive now.
Yeah.
I've heard, right?
Yeah.
They're like as expensive as the mall now, right? There's no
Yeah.
deals.
Girl, I get so much anxiety going to the callejones. I can't.
Yeah. I just I don't know.
I
feel
like the
it's-
vibe. I don't know.
It's cool.
That's me. I eat the hot dogs they sometimes serve. I like the vibe. And on a Sunday too, just chilling, walking around.
Everyone's always like they want a LA hot dog, bro. Sometimes I see like the frutas or like the fresas con crema, and I'm like, bro, I want everything here.
That's how you know there's some real Angelinos on the podcast right now.
I haven't gone in a cool bit. I used to go there all the time with my mom, or we would go like shopping for like because there would be like discounted stuff, so we would go. But we haven't gone as much anymore. Well, especially since the pandemic, we haven't really gone as much. So,
No,
But I
she's
always-
right though. It got expensive. It's not that big of a like saver like in money.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not that. It's about the same as the mall. You
Is
just
it-
go for the vibe. I'm literally telling you, you just go for the vibe.
Is it because of TikTok? They blew it up,
Maybe, honestly,
or
maybe.
then again, inflation.
TikTok ruins everything.
Inflation.
So. Inflation too. Yeah, people gotta make their money. You know,
Yeah.
they gotta live. So
yeah,
prices
true,
go up.
true.
It's the way it is.
Brandon, what's your hair care?
My hair care?
Yeah.
I wake up.
I haven't. I've actually been trying a little bit.
Mhm.
I don't use shampoo as much. I just use conditioner. And then someone recommended that you're supposed to dry your hair with either like a microfiber towel
Mm-hmm.
or an old T-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
So I just do that.
Or 100% cotton T-shirt.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
I do that. But I
Mhm.
mean, I don't know if it works really. But I mean, I do
Do
it.
you use oils on your hair?
No, but I probably should, right? What do you recommend? Rosemary?
Yes, I was gonna say rosemary mint oil
Yeah.
or like argan oil.
Why does my hair look bad?
No, it's because we're all talking about hair, and I was like,
Oh.
wait, where's Brandon?
No, yeah. But I mean, I try a little bit. But yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever feel insecure about your hair?
I do sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, because I feel like, I mean, I did straighten it and like curl it myself today. But I always get insecure of like, since it's like frizzy, because I have like wavy curly hair.
Yeah.
And like I also have a lot of hair, and especially now since I cut it, like it gets bigger. So sometimes I'm a little like if I don't have a perfect curl or like a perfect wave, and then
Mhm.
one's like straighter than the other side. I'm always like, man, I'm not having a good hair day today. I'm always like, please, every single time I'm trying
Your
to dry
hair
it.
is really good though.
Thank you. But yeah, every time I'm trying to like dry it, I'm like, please, today, let me have a good hair day.
Let me have a good hair day.
Yeah. I also do the shirt thing because especially since like I have like wavy curly hair, I should be doing
You're
that.
supposed to scrunch.
Yeah,
right?
you're
You
supposed
don't
to
go like
scrunch it.
that.
Yeah.
You done your research, bro, but you
d-
haven't done it.
I do it. I dabble. I just
He's
don't
trying,
do.
he's
I don't
trying.
do the oil.
It's a
Yeah.
work in
though.
progress.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, a little. I was always a little insecure about it because I feel like I had Asian hair. So like, when I was a kid, how no matter how I would cut it, it would just fall into a bowl. And I'd be like,
I remember that.
So I didn't. I also didn't really know what to do with it because I felt like everybody else's hair just kind of like worked. I don't know how to make it. So I didn't know really what
He
to
says
do.
everyone.
I know.
Yeah. Everyone's hair just kind of worked. So I was always like, man, I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Bro, it definitely feels that way with like anything. When you can't get something to work, whether it's like your outfit or like your hair, you're always like, man, it works for everybody else but
Right?
me.
Yeah.
The world's against me.
Well, because for me, I've always had the thing like, should I have a middle part? Should I have my hair to the side? Like every time I have my hair to the side, it just looks huge. Where I'm kind of like, I think it's just because I'm not used to it. Because I'm always used to having like the middle part. So I'm like, okay, I'll do the middle part, but then like my curls go like a different direction, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do anymore at this point. I'm like, I'm gonna just shave my head at this
I
point.
do feel like everyone should have a middle part. Just try it, yo. Like if you feel like you've been stuck with the side part like pretty much your whole life, try a middle part. It'll change
I
your
always
life.
had like bangs in like the side part,
Me
and then eventually I was just
too.
like, you know what, I'm just gonna do the middle, and then I don't want to do bangs anymore, so I just have like my side piece.
And you guys both have middle parts right now. Maybe it means something. You guys are like spiritually
We're
connected.
connecting.
Yeah.
We're connecting.
Yeah. I relate a lot to what you said too. Your hair was thick. For sure, when I was younger, I always wanted to have that like classic like Chicano slick back where you just like slick it back. I could never have it. It would just like poof back up.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? And I would have like the craziest
You gotta
like hair.
like blow dry it.
Yeah.
You gotta really like press it down and put the hairnet and everything.
Yeah, I was
to
gonna say
put
you
it
gotta get the
down.
hairnet. I would put a beanie, but it wouldn't work.
No, yeah, my dad. Well, he has that, and that's what they always try to get me to do. But I felt like I never fit.
Yeah.
But with his hair, he uses. I don't know if you guys know it. You probably know because you're a model. They use Murray's. It's like
Murray's,
yeah, Murray's.
Yeah. Wax.
That it's like
It
cement,
holds,
dude.
dude,
I'm not
yeah.
even, like I remember I put it in once when I was a kid. I'm not even joking. It took days to get it.
Because it's wax.
No,
like,
well,
not just
'cause-
water can get it off.
No,
like,
yeah, it's really like thick. So that's
Damn.
the length you gotta go to.
It's like when you're not using it, you put it like use it to put posters on the wall. And
Exactly,
dead.
dude. Exactly. Yeah.
No, but also like with like I guess curly hair and wavy hair, I was also trying to do my research because you know how they say that there's like certain like what would you say, like products that are put in like shampoos and conditioners
Yeah.
that are not good for like, especially if you have curly and wavy hair. So that's why like I don't do oils because I haven't found like a good oil. But I'm gonna use that now. I'm gonna use.
I'll show you the one that I've been using, and it's
Okay.
really good. Yeah.
for sure.
Say it right now for the audience.
No, she
No,
got.
oh, my bad.
Sponsor me.
You're right. My
You
bad,
gotta
my
sponsor this whole thing first.
Yeah,
and
you're
then
She's gonna
Mhm.
gatekeep until then.
Yeah, you're right.
But just a quick note, I forgot to mention them. So we got the Michelab. They sent us a couple samples from them, so we're gonna try them out. They're from Oxnard. They're a local Miche Mix company, so you guys should check them out. Their Instagram is, I'm gonna do the Instagram,
I thought
is the
Whoa, whoa,
Miche
whoa.
dot lab _ So y'all should check them out. They're pretty cool. They sent us basically all these for the free, you know,
for the free.
for the
Yeah,
free.
this is us
So, let's try
live
it
on the
out.
show, trying it. Mine didn't come with a label,
So-
so you're gonna have to imagine it.
Yeah. So not too sure how they do their thing, but they gave us all of these, and one is good for a 12-ounce can. So if y'all want to try them out, they also do parties, so y'all should check them out.
I thought when I saw him, you're supposed to drink them like that. I thought it was
Oh, like a shot?
Like
Yeah.
a shot.
Well, because you know you get the little airport bottles. I thought
Yeah,
that's what
yeah,
they sent
yeah.
us, and I thought you just wanted
Or
beer.
like the
little shooter.
yeah.
like have you guys seen when they do like people do like immunity shots?
Oh, yeah,
Like
yeah.
or like ginger
The
shots?
ginger shots,
Yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead, take it like a shot. Wait,
So that has no alcohol then.
no, that I don't think so.
Oh, that's sour.
Well, yeah, it's tomato,
It's
right?
tomato, yeah.
Like clamato.
Yeah.
Did you guys
I
inherit?
like micheladas.
Does your family drink?
Like occasionally, my mom, no.
No,
Like,
not at all.
don't even get like a drink near her. She'll be like, oh my god. But like my dad here and there, he'll have like a beer, like his Michi too.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
But he's not a big. You're not a big drinker.
to an extent.
Yeah. No, our
She's
family
a
loves
social
drinking.
drinker. No, bro, my parents.
Our family, we're the
Now?
stereotype for sure. Like
Now they do. I feel like his puppy's like he's like
I feel like
I'm
the
getting old.
pandemic.
I'm getting old. He's like I'm gonna just drink. Who's gonna tell me?
Yeah, my mom should be like sipping me like a little wine, you know, here and there. But like she's a lightweight for sure. Like with
Oh,
just her
yeah.
little glass of wine, she's like,
Yeah.
woo, fun time.
It's kind of funny because are you a drinker?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's funny because I always the older generation, because obviously like I said, my family fits the stereotype. They drink like Modelo's or like you know like classic beer, and then my friends come over, we're drinking like seltzers and stuff, and they're
Oh, I can't do seltzers.
No?
man. No, I don't like them.
What do
I
you
don't
drink?
like beer in general. For me, it's either we're doing straight tequila shots or
Okay.
little like cocktails here and there. I do like
Okay.
a good cocktail.
Yeah.
then I could relate to that. Yeah.
I honestly don't like hard liquor. I'll drink a michelada. Like I'll drink beer here and there. It depends, because I remember before I hated beer. Like that shit was like nasty.
I don't like
Like,
beer
it's
to this
bitter.
day,
You're saying that as you're about to drink a beer.
But I
right
said now I like
Okay.
micheladas.
Me too. Sure.
Say get it right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
What about you, Brandon?
I've never really been a big drinker. I get Asian flush, so I turn bright red, and
Are you Asian?
my mom is, yeah.
Nice.
Which by extent means he is too.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I feel like I can now. I feel like when I was a little younger, it used to get like I couldn't handle it at all. A little bit more recently, I can handle it, but I don't know. I feel a little when I drink around people, I feel like everybody's looking at me because I'm all red,
Silly.
you know. And well, not that.
That's silly.
I love saying that. It's like when like my friends and I are having a good time, we're just like we're just feeling silly. Silly fun time.
Yeah.
He definitely gets a little silly when he drinks. Yeah.
No, yeah, but I feel like I don't know. I just feel like everybody's like, "Oh, are you okay?" Because I'm always bright red. Like everybody's like thinking I'm gonna pass out. It feels like I am sometimes.
Isn't
but,
there something that you could take though? Like is like,
I know that I've investigated. There's like there's like little pills that you can take
Yeah.
to like lessen it.
Mm-hmm.
But supposedly the jury's still kind of out whether it's like placebo or not.
Um,
I've always wanted
Makes
to try
sense.
it to see, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like I kind of
Just
just
when you take shots, be like, don't turn red today.
yeah.
Just tell yourself.
That's why we gotta get your tolerance up, bro. We gotta
That's
drink
like
more.
yourself.
He said that he did the green apple. What was it the
Oh,
Smirnoff
the
ones?
green. Yeah, I like those. Those
You
are
like
good.
those?
Yeah.
You see, was your dad like shaking his head, looking at you?
No, but I try to keep up. If my dad wants to have a drink with me, I try my best to keep up. But he likes really hard stuff, so I'm always like,
Well, because he's
Yeah.
an old school Chicano, bro.
yeah.
He was probably drinking at like age 15. So
That's true. Yeah.
he was taking 40s or no?
at the,
No.
I,
Did he
don't- I don't
drink
think
40s?
40s existed.
No?
then.
No,
I
my
don't
dad's
think
not
40s
really a
existed.
beer guy. He's more
Oh.
like liquor. Like the other day, he bought like this. What's it called? It's a form of brandy. But yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
Classy. I guess when you get older, you drink very
Yeah.
classy. Not my dad.
Dark liquor.
Not yet.
I hate dark
Not yet.
liquor, bro. That shit fucks you up.
Yeah. No, it's not good.
Ain't no way.
But hopefully, I'm making my older family members proud drinking this Modelo that I would never drink. I probably haven't drank a Modelo in like 5 years. So
Sponsor us, Modelo.
yeah, sponsor us
Yeah,
Modelo. If you owe us, right?
You owe us.
You know who would be cool to get sponsored by? Corona, because they're always drinking it in Fast and Furious.
But I think Modelo.
Is Dominic Toretto
Better.
supposed to be Mexican?
He is.
Yeah, I
He
think
is in
so.
the
Really?
movie. Yeah.
I never look it up because I want to keep the mystery.
He's supposed to be some type.
Well, because I remember when they go. Which one's the one where they go to Brazil?
I
Fast
don't
Five,
know.
right?
Five. I
And
think.
he's like, "This is mi familia," and he starts speaking in Spanish. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, are you supposed to be Latino?" I didn't know that. thought
I
he was
think
like,
so.
I
I
think
think
he's-
so.
he's
thought
in
he-
LA
I thought
too.
he was like Italian, but
No,
I
I
was
think
kind of giving Jersey a little bit.
right.
Yeah.
But I feel like the longer they go on, I'm like, are they implying he's Mexican?
because they even have like their carne asadas at the end.
Yeah. That's
they do. He's a Mexican icon.
That should be the title. Is Vin
Is Vin Diesel a Mexican icon? That's good. That's a good one. Yeah.
That'd be funny. Is it good, bro? No, not your vibe.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good actually. It's really good. I hope they sponsor us again. No, yeah, it's good actually. Like I really don't like modelos like that, but this is giving it like a whole new flavor. So
It's pretty like refreshing. Even though I took a little sip, I did taste the tomato, but it's pretty good.
But I wanted to ask you, like, growing up like in South Central, and speaking of movies, there's always like this perception, like the media and music plays of South Central. Would you say it's really like that, or you personally know?
Maybe like back then, but I definitely feel like things have calmed down since growing up. But I'm glad they could have those like, you know, stereotypes. Keep it like that. Like stay away from South Central.
Is it getting gentrified?
Here in I feel like because of like the school USC, like that area, like what is in that area kind of like you do like when you kind of like go over the freeway and stuff, like you do see like the kind of shift in like demographic. Well, I know that the Swami that I grew up going to, I heard that USC was the one who bought that Swami.
Oh wow.
And so I think they were going to use it for more housing for their students, which really sucked because that was like the Swami that like my entire family grew up going to. Like that's where everyone got their pictures, their clothes, like for like the parties and stuff. Like that's where I got my first pair of gold hoops as a baby actually. So like my parents took me there to like get my first piercings, and I still have my baby hoops from there. So like that Swami definitely like it hit a little too close to home when we heard that they were closing it down. And they also did it at like a really unfortunate time because it was during the pandemic when it closed. And so like, but I have heard from like my family members saying that they're trying to buy it back. So they're trying to reopen it and stuff. I was like, that's going to be a little hard, bro. Yeah. Like Swamis already in general, like people don't go to them as much, but because like, you know, everything's so online and like people figured out like Shein and like all of that stuff where it's even more cheaper and like you could get to your door faster. So, you know, I love Swamis though. Like I love Swamis.
I've met a lot of people who prefer now to online shop. Like I think they always talking about like Shein or ASOS, and then the other one is Depop, where like people it's kind of like thrifting online.
Oh really?
Yeah.
No, I haven't heard about that.
Depop? It's like
Depop.
But
it's like a reselling.
Resellers, but
Oh, wow.
I hate resellers.
Yeah.
I don't like
It's like
resellers.
it's like clothing. Like or you can sell other stuff. I think
You can
sell
you can sell
other stuff, but it's majority like stuff that people thrift on the low, and then they upsell it. So they resell it. They call it reselling, but it's like it's not reselling if you're buying a $5 t-shirt from the thrift store, selling it for $35.
No,
so essentially, it's like, you know how sometimes you'll find like a cool jacket or something at like a thrift store for like $5 or $10.
Vintage,
like vintage,
1970s.
Oh, so they're just scamming people.
No, well, not even that. But I remember during I think it got bigger during the pandemic a little bit because people were talking about how it's becoming a real issue because I mean a lot of thrift stores like it's cool to thrift because it's like, you know, recycling and all that stuff, but it's also like so that's the only clothes some people can afford. And like when people are going in there buying literally everything and then selling it for like $70, $80, $100, you know, it kind of messes it up for a lot of people, you know. So that was like a big controversy that was going on.
Like thrift prices are going up. Like thrift sizes, like when you go to thrift store, like a shirt's supposed to be like $3, maybe $5 max. Like they're selling shirts now for like $10. It's like that's not a thrift price, you know. That's a very passionate subject. I am like super.
Well, it's going against what it's like standing for, right?
Exactly. Well, that's because people are coming in who don't, quite frankly, need the clothes. They're buying a whole bunch of it, and then they're selling it for a bigger price in the name of like reselling and like, you know, vintage shopping.
Well, that's what happened with Goodwill, remember? Where like I guess somebody posted something about how Goodwill,
what's it called?
The bins.
The bins.
Yeah.
Well, the one that's right there by
Glendale.
our high school, because I know Billie Eilish used to go there a lot, and people would be like, "Oh my god!"
Well, because I remember one time you told me about it, and there was a huge line, like right outside of it, and then people had like huge bags of it, and it's like the purpose of it is so that like there's other families who like can't afford like, you know, other type of clothing because they charge you by like what the pound.
So some people, I remember going there when I was in high school, and like it's crazy because like when they bring out a new bin, they just swarm it and they just stuff it in a bag. And then obviously they go through it later and resell it. But I
saw a TikTok of it recently, and like the employees in there have like whistles now. So they like whistle to tell people to like line up and like go around it. And they have a whistle when they can tell you to go in. And it's crazy because there was like a guy who was like analyzing the footage, and he's like, you could tell by these guys how they're dressed that they're not low income. They're people who are just there to buy clothes and then resell them online. And they're the ones who are going even harder than the people who are probably just there to buy clothes.
Yeah, it's
That's
crazy.
trippy. Well, I guess that's why I bring up South Central, right? Because I guess the media and the movies, it's pretty dated, like what's going on there.
Yeah.
So, like, do you know anything? How's the neighborhood? Like,
Well, I grew up like on Avalon, so Avalon is a pretty like well-known street in South Central. So now it's like a little bit chill, you know. Like you're still able to walk down the streets and stuff. Like obviously, like I feel like anywhere you have to be careful.
yeah.
But you know what I have been noticing more is that a lot of events are being held in South Central now. Like a lot of like art shows, a lot of like night markets and stuff, like they're being hosted in South Central. To a certain extent I like, because a lot of the people who are hosting it are also locals or like know about the culture too. Like they're just taking up the warehouse space. But where I have like a confliction of it is in like, well then now you're inviting people who are not part of the culture, who are not from the hood, like South Central or like neighboring cities as well, coming into like it and thinking that like, you know, they're very entitled to it. And I hate that. I hate like when people come in who aren't from like my neighborhood feeling entitled to the space. And it's like, dude, you need to respect the people here. You need to respect the city first of all. And I don't know, just like be respectful. Like mind your manners.
Yeah, we talk about all the time on the show that like gentrification is like the modern day colonization, because it's just like a bunch of like white folk come in and they take up our space, and then they erase like murals telling history of people who have been here for a long time, decades and decades. So I feel that 100%.
Well, like, you know what's trippy is that, so I moved about 2 times in my whole life. So I used to be down on like Adams and San Pedro in South Central, and then we moved to like 42nd and Avalon. And that whole street, all I know is like just brown folk, black folk, just everyone there. And then like recently, my cousin, she used to still live on that street, and she told us like a while ago, she was like, oh, you know, like a white couple moved in like a couple houses down, and that house used to be owned by like this old black lady. And we're just like, why are y'all here? Like, why do these?
I get that too. I mean, if we look at even our neighborhood, the one we grew up in, we're basically like the last ones, or like the indigenous, like Mexican American, like family. Our whole street used to be Mexican Americans. By the time that we moved to, we were the last people on that street who were. I think the only people who were all the way at the end, right on the bottom. But for the most part, we basically saw it, because then when we moved out, we basically saw like the end of like that legacy that was there. So I don't know. It's tricky. It's pretty sad. I don't know.
It is really sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know. I mean, I hope that like and we could like make like facilities that like would help like people who are like in our communities to kind of like get more resources, because I think a lot of the reason why like our communities kind of like fall out is because people aren't aware of like a lot of resources that we actually have, whether that's like maybe like intentional, you know, maybe the city does that, but I don't know. I wish we could do more about it.
Yeah, that's why I'm always like, I'm always more of like, what can we do with that? Because I mean, it's sad to see like even in our own neighborhood, and we've seen other neighborhoods around here, like Highland Park and all that stuff. And like to see that our own neighborhood is kind of like, I guess, getting that part of it is kind of like, man, like it's like, well, cause it's like what is it that they don't understand, or like how is it at least to make them understand like their effect to the neighborhood and to the community.
Yeah, but it's also like how we're talking about the thrifting and how everything's raising in like price. It's like, well, they're also being pushed out just because like of inflation, and like the everything just becomes more expensive. I mean, I talk about it all the time on the old show when we did the radio about how I didn't like the mayor for LA, because he continuously pushes for just the rich people to move in and people who have lived here for a long time to kind of get the fuck out. And like that's where I think like it sucks, but like I think it all starts obviously with whoever is in charge of LA City, constantly like implementing policies that put us at a disadvantage. But before I go on around about like policies, just going back more about like your modeling, I was interested too, because since we're talking about perceptions of things, the perception of like models is that you guys are always, you know, like confident and like feeling good on camera. Would you say that that's true to your experience and to like some of your coworkers? Like Are you guys always just like fully confident on camera, feeling good?
Oh no, like there's definitely been moments where I'm just like, oh my god, like it's just so like for me, I've been put in like certain outfits and stuff where I maybe don't feel the best, because for me, like my mantra is kind of like, if I look good, I feel good. And like even though like the makeup's bomb and like the hairstyle's bomb, if like what they dress me in is like I'm not really comfortable, it's maybe not something that I would like kind of navigate towards to. It'll have to kind of work a little extra hard for me to like kind of fake it till I make it. So like I don't think it's a confidence issue. I think it's more of just like how much energy you're exerting to like, you know, make it look good and stuff. I know that like for a lot of the cosmetics brands that I worked with, sometimes they have you do video. And so video, you have to put in so much energy into it, like super smiley and like super like movements, and like you kind of have to improv a lot of the stuff that you do. And so there's moments where after like a 10-hour day, you know, you still have to like, the last thing you have to do is go do video after you've kind of like went through so many makeup looks, so many hairstyles already, many outfit changes, and you're like kind of burnt out towards the end. And then you have to get to video, you have to like just shake that all off and be like, okay, one last thing. And then, you know, so there's definitely been moments where I'm just kind of like running on fumes, and I'm like, ugh, okay, just have to do this one thing and then I'm out. Like, that's it. It's a job at the end of the day.
True, yeah.
Yeah.
What do they say? Nobody likes their job at the end of the day. Anybody who does is lying. Who said that?
Oh, that's Jokic said that.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Basketball.
Yeah, basketball. I don't know if you guys watch basketball. But what would you, when you guys are ever feeling like in a funk, like you and models, like you guys ever feeling insecure, what's like a thing that gets you out of it?
Well, like for me, when I'm in a funk or like I just, like right now I kind of took a break from modeling because of school. I like to get ready. So even if it's just like do my makeup or like getting a nice outfit, that's kind of what helps me get out of my funk. It's like the little ritual that I have where I'm just like, okay, what's in my closet? Like, what can I mix and match? I love accessorizing stuff. I want to add like a gold hoop or like ribbon in my hair, you know, some like the little like bolitas and stuff. Yeah. Just little things like that that kind of makes me feel better and kind of like, you know, look in the mirror. Okay, you look good. Let's go out and tackle this world.
Even if you're not doing anything, right? You're just gonna watch Netflix like on your TV and stuff.
I'm looking cute, you know, like just. I think that's what helps me get out of the funk. It's just like doing my little rituals.
That's cool. Julie, you said you had brought some interesting things, right? You made us take a test earlier.
Oh yeah, so I made the guys take their 5 love languages test. What
was the reason? Why did you make me?
Well, because
take exams.
Take a quiz.
Yeah.
Was it right or wrong? What was your score?
My score?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm third. Well, I guess my primary love language is words of affirmation.
That's your top one?
Yeah.
That's me too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Stop it.
Come on.
What's your percentage? What's your percentage on it though?
I'm 33% words of affirmation.
Oh wow.
27% quality time. 17% physical touch. 17% acts of service, and 7% receiving gifts.
So that's your last one, receiving gifts.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, what
That's
about you,
funny.
Stevie?
Mine is my highest one is quality time. My second one is receiving gifts. My third one is words of affirmation. My 17% is acts of service, and then my last one is physical touch. Yeah.
So wait, say it again. Your first one was quality
time, then receiving gifts, then words of affirmation, then acts of service, then last one is physical touch.
Physical touch.
Yeah. I
And
guess
then
I
you
don't
said you had yours, right?
Yeah, I took one like a while ago. So my first one is acts of service. Mm-hmm. The second one is, I want to say quality time. Mm-hmm. The third one is words of affirmation. The fourth one was it quality time?
I think it's...
Yeah, right?
Yeah, probably.
I think quality time might be switched to third. But my last one was physical touch.
She's like, don't touch me.
I'm trying to get better with physical touch. But, I don't know. I get like, overwhelmed.
Okay, so my top one is words of affirmation. And then I have receiving gifts, quality time, acts of service, and my last one is physical touch.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's funny. You and me had the second one is receiving gifts, and then our last ones are both physical touch, and we're related. So what does that mean? It means that's how our family, like, that's like our love language.
They didn't hug us that much.
Yeah, because that was, you know what's funny?
Or they hugged us too much that we're like, we don't like physical touch anymore.
It's funny too, because as I was taking the quiz, whenever it gave me like physical touch things, I kept thinking of my brother, my older brother. I remember he used to always do this thing where he would pat me on the back, and like I hated it. Like I hated it so much. And so like now whenever anybody like gives me like a shoulder rub, like even if it's just to say like what's up, or like to be like, are you good, bro? I'm always like, bro, like don't touch me. He's
getting aggravated already.
Just the thought of it.
It's funny too, because sometimes I'm comforting my friends, like my friends are sad, and I'm doing that, like and like they say like, oh, I feel, and they feel good about it, and I'm like, that's funny, because if you did that to me, I'd be like, bro, like get your hand off me.
No, I forget what they say, but they say, I think like the ones your top are usually because it's the things that you, I guess, didn't get. So words of affirmation, it's kind of like, oh, they never really said. So like words of affirmation is kind of like they never said like, oh, they're proud of you. Or
I'm proud
like,
of you, Julie.
You know, Christ.
Quality time.
Or like receiving gifts, you know. Yeah, like quality time, like, you know, they didn't spend that much time with you. Acts of service, they didn't do like stuff for you, like doing your laundry or like doing your dishes or whatever. Physical touch is like they didn't hug you enough. Yeah.
For acts of services, I think it's a hyper independency thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had looked at other stuff to, I guess, for people to know if your friends or significant others have these type of qualities, what you should do. So for receiving gifts, for receiving or giving gifts, the language is about giving the other person your undivided attention. Signs they may be your loved one. Enjoys giving gifts. Remember special occasions. Often sentimental to material things. Displays gifts given to them. So they're like, oh, look what they got me. Try to do these things. So give souvenirs when you travel. So get them a souvenir. If you know that their top one is receiving gifts or giving them, mostly receiving, get them a souvenir. Be intentional on celebrating special occasions. So remember that one. Surprise them with things they like. Give small, inexpensive tokens when they don't feel their best. For acts of services. So signs this may be your loved one. Does chores for you. Cooks you food. Runs your errands if you need something. Make sure supplies are in full stock. Try to do these things. Fetch them from school or work. Cook their favorite meal. Offer help on chores. Make them coffee or tea. Make them breakfast. Or ask, what can I do for you? How can I help you?
That last part.
Acts of service. So if that's your top. If your top is quality time, signs this may be your loved one. Loves to plan getaway trips. Loves one-on-one moments. Plans your dates beforehand. Enjoys talking to you personally. Loves doing things together. And then the try to do things is show up. Give your undivided attention. Set movie or dinner dates. Take a walk in the park. Limit phone usage when you're with them. And make eye contact. So quality time, you know?
Yeah.
It's quality time.
Yeah.
And then words of affirmation. They love receiving compliments. They seek validation from others. They express their feelings openly. They are quick to reciprocate compliments.
Just like
things. Try to do these things. Write letters. I love letters. Just to let anyone know, I love letters.
I love writing letters too.
I love writing letters
I'm
too.
the one writing the letters. I love doing that.
Let them know.
I'll write you a letter, friend.
Let them know that you are with them on their success and struggles. Give compliments. Initiate heart-to-heart talks. Assure them that everything will be okay.
Everything's
so words of
cool?
affirmation. Everything's cool. And then physical touch. They love holding your hand, love hugging, love sitting beside you, love kissing you, often clingy, lovey, napping on your shoulder. Try to do these things. Offer a hug tight after a long day. Offer a massage. Avoid giving cold affection. Create a handshake for both of you. Give lots of hugs and kisses. Give them a pat on the back during a tough time.
Mm.
Those were all.
Wow.
I always think of well, this also made me think of like other things because so I usually always go off like my top 3,
Okay.
which are like words of affirmation, receiving gifts, and quality time. And I feel like because it's love languages, right? That's how you kind of receive, but I think that's also how you give. So like for me, I tend to do a lot of like I tend to always give people things. So like if there's something that I see and it reminds me of them, I give it to them. Sometimes I feel like I wish their reaction was a little better because I feel like since that's like my love language, I sometimes wish that like
I
Maybe
get
it's
you.
not
it'd
their
be
love language.
it's not their love
Yeah.
language. They're more is like
Thank you.
physical touch,
Yeah.
and that's like my bottom. So it's like we're like the opposite, right?
It's so
Yeah.
weird because then you kind of have to learn their love language, like vice versa.
Yeah, which was funny because my boyfriend, I think his are like quality time, physical touch, and I forgot what else. And I'm like, bro, those are like
Oof.
my bottom ones. So sometimes when I because I made him like take the quiz earlier on in our relationship, and so because I was just curious,
Yeah.
because like I already knew mine, but I was just curious. And when his were like quality time and physical touch, and like mine were like my bottom ones, I was like, I'm gonna try. So like sometimes because I know he's like physical touch, like I'll hold his hand or something. Like when we're like sitting next to each other,
You're like,
I'll
I
hold
guess.
I guess I'll hold your hand. But I also realized that like I tend to do a lot more of like my own thing where like I'll do the words of affirmation where like if we're like working or like we've had long days because we work together too. I'll be like, oh, I'm proud of you, or like you're doing a good job. Like I know it's been a long week and like shit hit the fan a couple of times. Like you're doing good, you know.
Like,
It's okay.
What is it? What is it? You said the top 3.
Yeah.
I have 4 because my third one's tied. So
Okay, what
is
are
it?
they again? What's your number one?
my number 1 is words of affirmation. My
Okay.
number 2 is quality time, and then third place is both physical touch and acts of service.
Acts of
Yeah.
service.
And last place is gifts.
Gifts.
I'll
I
do
give-
my
I
best.
give- I give
Brandon, I'll
people-
do my best.
I give
bro.
people gifts.
But do they give you gifts?
I feel like
He's hurting.
I want more of all of these.
Oh,
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just
I'm
kidding.
proud of you, Brandon.
Thank you. Thank
You've been
you.
doing great.
Thank you. All right, come on. All right.
Nah, enough,
Start
enough.
crying.
I
to
know,
get him
right?
blushing.
No, the other one that I think that applies to, I guess, kind of like words of affirmation is I feel like another connection that I have is to music. So I feel like if somebody is like, this song reminded me of you.
I made you a playlist.
Yeah, I made you a playlist, bro. Straight into my heart, bro. Straight into my heart. Like, my friends do that all the time too. They're like, I saw this, I heard this song and it reminded me of you, bro. Instantly, I like it, no matter what.
Yeah, even if it's like the worst thing you've ever heard.
Yeah, no matter what, I always end up liking it. But yeah, it's cool. I guess it's cool to also show that like if you guys now that you guys know your love languages, that's how you can show that how you express yourself in a way, and then you know with your friends or with your significant others, it's a lot of different ways to kind of like express yourselves, and a little bit more to be understanding that like, so for example, how I said like I'm not a physical touch person, so I guess like my boyfriend can be a little more understanding that it's like not my thing, or like you know I also hate like
Yeah.
PDA. Like I hate when, like
yeah.
showing affection out in
Like you
public.
mentioned me, I'm just like,
I'm like, ooh, it's weird. It's just weird that because I feel like I kind of grew up seeing like people kind of do that, and I always felt uncomfortable. That I feel like I don't want to do that to another person now that I am in a relationship. So it's a lot of more like when you're in a relationship, just being understanding of each other, how you guys kind of like show your love and affection to each other. So now you guys know. Now you guys know what you guys are.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very
Oh, wow, this is
interesting.
Any
Beautiful.
questions?
No, that was beautiful, bro. That was beautiful. Brandon, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you brought for this week?
Oh, sure. I guess before I do that, I did have a couple questions for you, if that's okay. I wanted to ask, like, I know because me and Steve wanted to get into the film industry. A lot of like a big issue that tends to come up is like people of color. You know, there's tends to be like a lot of stereotypes when it comes to like inclusion. And I wanted to ask you, have you ever experienced any form of stereotypes in terms of modeling and stuff?
yeah. See, it's funny because so I do kind of tend to get a little pick and choosy with who I want to work with. I think that's one of the good things about being a freelance model is that you kind of get to say yes or no to whoever you want to. I mean, sometimes for the check, you got to do it, you know? But, you know, I did do this shoot for this one brand. And it was like a time period shoot. It was very like 90s Chicano. And so it was a pretty cool idea and stuff, but you know, it's kind of weird when you have the whole creative team be white. And then like they're dressing you like the stylists were amazing. Like they 100% understood. They did their research to a T. And that's what I appreciate because they knew what's up and they were respectful. But it was a little awkward when, you know, I have very visible fluffy eyebrows. They wanted the old school thin eyebrow, like chola look. Nothing wrong with that, but it's like, girl, if you wanted someone with like thin brows, you should have casted someone with thin brows, because they try to like cover up my brows and they just like pencil through it like a thin line. It did not look good. And they were referencing like, you know, if you search up like 90s chola makeup on Google, the first 2 photos that like comes up is what they use as like a makeup reference. So I could kind of tell that like, oh, you guys are being stereotypical because, you know, you found like the first 2 pictures on Google probably, and like that's what you went with. And it just wasn't good. And it's like moments like that where it's a little bit scary, where you have to advocate for yourself, even though like, you know, it's a very big brand and like, you know, they are paying you pretty well, but you're not going to be looking crazy either, you know, like you're not going to, this is like a big shoot, you know, this isn't just like something people are doing for like pennies and stuff. Like it's, your face is going to be on a website. Yeah. It's most likely going to be like on social media. You know, you have to tell them. And I have to tell them like, hey, I'm not comfortable with this. This isn't me, first of all. Like you guys knew I have very big brows and you're trying to like do something that it's just not there. So for me, it was just like, if you wanted someone who looks like that, then maybe do the casting and, you know, look for someone who fits that criteria that you need. Yeah. But like I came in here with a certain look and you guys are trying to change it to fit like some sort of narrative. And that's what I don't appreciate, because then it's just like you're doing a disservice not only to the people who actually have that look, but it's a disservice to me as well, because you guys are just like choosing probably the first brown person that you saw like on the casting list and then like running off on that. Yeah. And just like trying to like shift me into like what you want to see like on a camera.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like they could have just done it better.
I feel like that's kind of rude, because it's just saying that like it kind of goes back to the stereotype, like, oh, you guys are all the same anyways. Yeah. You know? Exactly. So it's like, what does it matter? Like, I'll get you, like, the first, like you said, the first person I see.
And so, like, I knew a majority of the people who were also on that, like, set with me, the talent specifically. And the entire time, we were just like, how are these people going to tell us about, like, our own culture and stuff? Like, it's so weird how, like, after we got into, like, wardrobe and stuff, they had us, like, lined up. And just think of, like, hella brown people lined up. And then, like, surrounding them is, like, a whole creative team of, like, white people. Just looking at it and be like, she doesn't look, like being chola enough. Yeah. Or, like, no, she doesn't look, like, cholo enough. Yeah. Or, like, it's just, like, what?
Looks a little familiar.
Yeah. I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, what? Yeah. And some of the people that were on set were just, like, very much in that culture. So for, like, you know, white people to tell them, like, they're not enough of like what you're trying to portray is just like so disrespectful. And it just left a really bad taste in our mouths. And it sucks because it's like, it's a very nice brand too. But hey, man, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, I mean, even for me, I mean, it was never anything in that similar sense. But when we wanted to get into film, I was a freshman in college, and my first project I ever worked on, I was a PA, and I went. It was the shoot actually in South Central was by USC. USC was the one who was doing it. And I show up for the PA, and I'm waiting there by the like truck bed where they're keeping all the equipment. Right. Because that's what they told me to meet. And I remember this guy who was there at the time. I didn't know, but he's the director. At the time I didn't know. He just keeps like side-eyeing me, like he keeps looking at me. And then finally, the person who hired me to be a PA, the producer, she sees me and she's like, "Oh, hey Steve, like I'm glad you can make it." I was like 18, and the director's like, "Oh, like you're a PA? I thought you were a gang member. I thought you were here to steal all the equipment." And I was like, I always thought it was crazy because I was like,
bitch.
I was wearing. Well, obviously, I'm an 18-year-old. My first time on the set. I'm just like, oh, like, damn, like I didn't know what to do. You know, I was, and I'm sure a lot of people are sharing that experience of like, you know, it's your job, and like you said, like sometimes it's something really big, and you don't want to be the one to be like, oh, I'm gonna be rude, and then like possibly lose out, right? At the time, I was like, bro, like what? Like I'm wearing a Cal State Fullerton shirt. Like, what would make you think? Is it because you saw my face? Like you saw my features? You just think we're all somehow like that because we're in South Central.
Yeah,
I don't know. I always think about that too. So and I get why he brought up the question because I mean it's an experience that we all unfortunately experience.
Yeah. So in regards to the film industry, I don't know much about it, but like my younger brother, he's a film student right now. He's doing a film fellowship with Ghetto Film School. I don't know if you're familiar with Ghetto Film School, but they're essentially like a film school program that high school students are able to join for 3 years, like as a fellowship.
Oh, wow.
And so it's a rigorous course of, you know, like college level, like hands-on experience that you get to make films, you get to meet with a lot of directors and producers. And so my brother has learned a lot, and my brother is also very visibly brown. And so he's kind of been navigating a space where he also has like fellow brown and black, you know, peers. But there's also like, you know, here and there, like you do have like white peers as well who like sometimes don't get it. And my brother's point is that he's also trying to take up space. My brother does identify as a Chicano director, and he does identify as like being brown, and like he doesn't just want to do films that like kind of portray a lot of us in like stereotypical ways.
Yeah.
It's almost similar to like Jordan Peele, where he just wants to do like comedy, or he just wants to do like sci-fi. My brother just wants to do projects that he likes to do. And I think like I'll get you in contact with my brother and stuff because he knows like a lot of pretty cool people, and like a lot of his friends also work with like other centers that, you know, target people who also want to get into filmmaking.
Oh wow.
So
Thank
definitely
you.
stay in
Yeah,
contact.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow, live on the podcast.
Dude, yeah, my brother's super cool. Like, he's gonna be like, "Oh, okay,
I'm sure he
said
is,
I'm
yeah.
cool." But my brother's super cool, and he's
we'll
super
have him on the
talented.
pod.
Yeah.
Have
Have
him.
him on
He'll
here,
talk
yeah.
about it. He loves anything film and movies.
No,
He kind of like, you guys should talk to him.
Definitely.
Yeah, you should. He's so dope. He's like 18 years old, but you reminded me of him when you said you were 18, like as a PA.
Yeah.
My brother's 18 now, and he's like going to Jersey for like for 2 weeks because they're gonna teach him how to do films and stuff and like networking.
Yeah.
So
That's
there you
cool.
go. That's one thing. Network.
Yeah, totally.
Definitely.
Even if you might get annoying like in DMs and stuff with people you want to work with, just keep doing it. Because what's the worst that can happen? They say no. I always say rejection is redirection. So
Wow. Nice. Dropping bars. Because I mean, that even goes for our audience, people who listen or watch. Like, it goes for anybody if you guys want to take up space, you know, take an opportunity. I always tell you, right? I always felt like we're put at a disadvantage, so we got to make sure that we make the moves that most people wouldn't make.
exactly. And even like, I think people's biggest fears are being told no. But honestly, like being told no is the best thing that could happen, because then you're just like, all right, on to the next. And just keep it pushing. Like I always tell my brothers that, hey man, this one didn't work out. Okay, cool. What are you gonna do? Like be sad about it for a little bit, cool. But hey man, you can't get nowhere with being stuck. You just gotta keep it going.
Yeah.
And then like I said, rejection is redirection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, bar snap.
Thanks.
I try.
I'm learning a lot.
I think that's a good segue for my topic. I was trying to. You guys kept bringing it up during the podcast, and I was very happy because I was.
You were
like,
itching?
well, because I was worried that
He was eating you up. I know.
I was worried that this was gonna be like, I guess before we did the podcast, I was worried this was gonna be too out of left field, and I was gonna feel a little out of place. But I was fighting for my life to not talk about it.
Okay, go ahead.
So this part's for the real.
Okay.
Did you guys know that you guys have heard about the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit? You know what that movie is.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Did you know that movie is kind of it serves as a metaphor for East Los Angeles and the Mexican experience of East Los Angeles?
I think I have heard of that actually.
Yeah.
Please elaborate.
Yeah, please elaborate. No, I have not. No.
Because I love that movie. Not gonna lie, it's one of my favorites.
I've
I'm
never
so glad.
heard of that.
Well,
So good.
I remember.
I recommend watching it.
Yeah, you should watch it if you.
I've seen it. I've seen
Oh,
it, but I've
you
never
just-
heard of that.
Oh,
Yeah.
got it.
So as I mentioned before, I've been reading this book by Rodolfo Acuña. I hope I'm saying his name right. It's called Anything But Mexican. If you guys ever want to read it. I'm trying to educate myself to keep up with these two.
Oh.
That's a really good thing.
Yeah.
Words of affirmation.
There you go.
Thank
Wow, I know. I feel love.
So I when I was reading this, I remember it sounded so familiar, and I'm surprised you didn't know, because I was like, did Steve tell me this, or where did I hear this? Because I feel like this sounds so familiar. So I guess a little bit of setup, right? You guys were talking about how, like, especially you were talking about it's hard, and like you really enjoy taking up space because it's like, you know, it's building and reminding that there is history and like your representation. And in the book, he talks about how most Angelinos, specifically Mexicans and Latinos, have very little sense of history. And he brings up this, he calls it a simple equation. If it is not in English, it's not worth learning. And if it's not American history, meaning the experience of white Americans, it's not worth reading. So when you guys were talking about, what'd you guys bring up earlier?
I was saying that like a lot of people don't know about how Mexican Americans have indigenous like roots.
Yeah. So he was talking about how like that's very true, that like a lot of people when they hear about, like, you know, the real Los Angeles like history, they're all like, like nobody takes the time to really like you know, learn it. And he talks about how there's like for him it's kind of like, because obviously it's a metaphor, but he's saying like it's because everybody's too busy driving by that nobody slows down to smell the refried beans. He says it in the book.
I'm done.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he talks about how like until recently in East LA and like in South Central, they didn't offer like required college courses, so like it was pretty hard to like learn the history to begin with, you know. And because Los Angeles is a really big, like, it's pretty vast.
Yeah.
And that there's not really like cheap transportation, especially now, or like reliable public transportation. Mexicans always had to like live near work. So he goes on to say that like the community was always very dispersed. And because it's such a big like county, a lot of people didn't really have contact with each other. And he says that up until like the past 50 years, Mexicans were so scattered that it really impeded the growth of a united community, which is why there's a lot of like disjointedness. And like I wanted to jump in when you guys are talking about like Latino and Chicano, and he talks about like how he feels that's a big part of why nobody really knows what to call themselves, because there's not like a united like community that exists in like other like cities and stuff like that. But sorry.
No, you're good.
And then he talks about how like before freeways showed up, you know, Los Angeles had like a great like streetcar system, kind of like San Francisco, right? And that was kind of like one of the few forms where people kind of rubbed elbows with each other. And because it's like public transportation, you got to see like other parts of the city, you know? And when that disappeared, that like that further like divided people, you know? What's that like? Do you agree like that people are kind of like that? Because you went to San Francisco and like you really like the public transportation over there, right?
Yeah, well, I mostly like taking like the bus and the train a lot, because over there they have the Muni, which is like a train that goes around like the city. So you get to see a lot of the parts of the city. So it even goes in like neighborhoods sometimes. So like you get to see like the different neighborhoods, and like it takes you like from school to like all the way to downtown, which is kind of like, I don't know what it would be here. Like for you to like imagine, but it's technically like, say you were to catch like the train or the bus here, and it'll take you to like downtown. It's kind of like that. It's just like super chill, super easy kind of thing. I didn't really like talk to a lot of people there. I mean, I would see like the locals a lot more there and stuff, but I wouldn't really like be as talkative to them. But it was more like I would see a lot more of the city and like the scenery. I liked it a lot because I feel like when I drive, I don't really get to just watch or like people watch sometimes. It's usually just like I'm more attentive of like, don't crash into someone. And that's how I'm like, especially when people don't know how to drive, where I'm always like complaining about it. Because I'm just like, I need to be, because some people just drive crazy, and it's just like I need to be more attentive of like those crazy drivers. But when I'm like on a train or a bus, and the buses too, it takes you in within neighborhoods too, because even there's a bus that goes around the neighborhood that's around campus. And it generally just takes you to every stop, and then it goes all the way to like the mall and like all that stuff. So it's just like a really nice time to just sit and like, especially because you're like, okay, I'll get there like in 15, 20 minutes. I'll just chill and just watch, and then I know my stop, so I'll just like get off, and then I could just walk.
And I can imagine back in the day when they had street cards, nobody really had phones.
Yeah.
So like you could talk to somebody, you know, like who wasn't from your neighborhood. So I imagine it did kind of build.
And it's cool because I mean, when I would do that, I would be listening to my music. So I'd be like listening to my music, and like I'd be like watching like and it over there, it's like super like naturey and stuff. So like the scenery is really nice, and like just the neighborhoods overall, like the houses you guys have seen, like they're super colorful, and like just the architecture overall is just like different from like here. So you're more observant of like what you're seeing there, and you're just like, wow, like this is cool. Never, and it's, I don't know, it gives me a lot of like a small city vibe.
Yeah.
So it was always cool, like just sitting there, and especially because I always had to travel to like different parks because I worked for the city. So it was more of like just doing transportation through that. And it was really cool. I got to see a lot of the city and stuff.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
Definitely.
I wish they had that here.
Yeah.
I really wish they had that
we
here.
used to. And like, getting off to the Roger Rabbit part, right? The author goes on to say that like a film that captures the tale of Mexicans and the freeway really well is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And to give you a quick synopsis of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, if you haven't seen it, the main point of the story is that this fictional transit company buys the Pacific Electric System, which is the trolleys and stuff, and wants to build like a freeway on Toontown. And then the main villain, Judge Doom, the guy who played by Doc Brown.
Yeah.
He frames Roger Rabbit for a murder so that he can destroy Toontown and build a freeway. And based on that, you can very much see that like the tunes are kind of like a euphemism. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
A euphemism or a metaphor for Latinos, and how, because like if you look in the past, Latinos have, that's like a real thing that happens all the time. Chavez Ravine is like a great example.
Yeah.
Where Latinos are rounded up and kicked out in favor of freeways and price choice like buildings and stuff like that. I thought that was really fascinating because I was like, that always kind of went over my head, that was kind of the intention of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, was to kind of portray like the shadiness of Los Angeles and how that kind of happens. But yeah, interesting.
Well, because it's reliving history, right? Because that's what happened in LA, right?
Yeah.
Because I think Boyle Heights too. If you look at the history, I think in Pasadena, one of the freeways, it might be the 110. I think it ends right at Pasadena, but it should have gone through. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
That the only reason they didn't is because at the time when they made the freeway, all the people who lived around Pasadena petitioned not for it to happen, even though the same thing happened in Boyle Heights and they didn't care. They just bulldozed through Boyle Heights houses. Have you heard of that?
I haven't.
Yeah, that's an old one. That's a super old one. I don't know about that.
Yeah. I remember I saw a TikTok about it, and they're saying that the people who protest for it are still alive, and like they still protest about it, of like they don't want
the freeway
through Pasadena like that.
Well, because I think right there every year I think LA is still trying to connect the freeway that's in Pasadena, but they win every single year because everybody over there can lobby because they have a lot of money.
Yeah.
No, but like what's interesting, like I guess
go ahead.
Continuing to your point is he brings up, he goes, sorry if this is very quote heavy. I just thought it was very I thought it was very powerful. He talks about how like Los Angeles's past addiction to urban renewal projects resulted in the dispersal of Mexicans throughout the city and of working class renters. And he goes on to point out that because at the time there wasn't really like a concentrated community of Mexicans, they didn't seem very threatening to like to Euro Angelinos. So when they would do this, there wasn't like a big like community to be like, hey, like get the fuck out of here. It just seemed like, oh, it's just like a few families, like get them the fuck out of here. Who cares? Yeah. You know, I thought that was really interesting. And he talks about how this continuous uprooting of these families and communities has diminished community consciousness. And like that's pretty interesting because it's like, well, yeah, right? Because like if these people you knew like down the road got kicked out, I don't know the people who just moved in there. You know, I thought that was interesting.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And he goes on to add, the resulting lack of local history and connectedness alienates Chicanos and Native Americans and discourages development of a united community. And I thought that was interesting and a little heartbreaking because you kind of still see it today. I mean, we're just talking about it on the podcast, you know. And he says the preservation of buildings is almost completely limited to those built by Euro-Americans, giving the impression that nothing existed before the Anglo invasion. I thought that was like kind of haunting because, like, yeah, I think a lot of people come in here and think like it's just Los Angeles, like there's nothing here before we showed up, but there was, and it's because of that, you know. And I don't know, I thought that was pretty interesting, but again, sad, you know.
Yeah. No, yeah, I could see why it was eating you up because I was talking about how like gentrification, right?
Yeah.
Like I was talking about how like it's basically that in a sense. You erase everything, and then you paint over the murals. You bring down. They were trying to bring down Mariachi Plaza, right, in Boyle Heights too, but Boyle Heights always fights back. They've been keeping at it, even though they're getting gentrified still. Yeah, I always see them protesting. So shout out to anybody who's from Boyle Heights.
No, yeah, but I mean, I thought that was like fascinating. I mean, I hope fascinating is the bad word to use, but like, how like
I think it's eye opening.
Yeah, because like yeah, totally. I mean, like you hear a lot of influencers and stuff that come here and they talk shit about Los Angeles and how it's like
transplants.
And they're like, oh, it's like a third world country there. Like there's nothing there. And like it's a lame city, but like
there's bad energy.
Yeah, but like you hear about how like they tear down buildings and destroy communities and it's deliberate because like for one they don't care and they want their own like choice buildings, freeways, stuff like that, and it erases like the really powerful history that's there. And I guess I'll close with this quote that I thought was pretty powerful. And he says, "An ethnic group unable to define its past is unable to take pride in its accomplishments, learn from its past mistakes, or assess its current situation." And I was like, damn, like that kind of blew me away because I was like, whoa, you know, all that from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, you know? Like I didn't know it was that deep, but interesting, you know?
I'm going to rewatch it.
Yeah, I feel like it deserves a rewatch. But that was beautiful, bro. I feel like that was very educational. You taught me something I didn't know.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
gosh.
You're making me angry.
You're ruining my day, bro. No,
I mean, I guess it's to go back to what Nena's been saying of like we need to start taking up space, you know? Like if for a long time we've always been getting, I guess, erased or like put in the back. I think it's now our time to finally, like, if we are in those spaces, like, we need to take them up.
We need to be seen.
Yeah. And I think also the other part is, like, encouraging our own, you know, like, not putting our own community down. Because I feel like that's just something that's been through history because of, and I think, at least as far as I know about the Chicano movement, right, that's kind of, like, why it kind of happened, or, like, there was the word Chicano, because you weren't accepted by, you know, the Mexicans, and then you weren't accepted here by the Americans. So it's because, and then they created their own group. They created Chicano. And it's just like, it's just been known that like your own people, or like people that you think are, you know, your community is like also going against you. And I feel like, especially in these times when everyone else is already against us, I feel like us as a community should stick together. You know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he talks about in the book too, like how it's not uncommon for, I think, second generation. I hope I'm not speaking illy of that, but like second generation, it's not uncommon for them to adopt very conservative mindsets, and like kind of talk down on older generations. And he even brings up, because we brought it up not a couple episodes about the graduation thing. He doesn't specifically talk about that, but he talks about how it's not uncommon for people born here to kind of look down on older generations and be like, nah, like, you know, and again, it's not uncommon for them to identify as white or adopt this idea that like, oh, there's things that reverse racism is real and stuff like that. And I guess because he's a professor, he sees it a lot in like students. Yeah. So I guess for him, it's like an observable phenomenon. Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting.
Low-key, you saying the generations reminds me of like how I remember I used to hear about the ICE or whatever they're called, the agency or whatever. How a lot of them are like second, fourth, fifth generation that work.
The ICE officer who didn't know he himself was undocumented and he was an ICE agent. Wow. And he deported so many like undocumented folks. Yeah. And he got deported himself because he didn't realize he was undocumented. Damn.
No, definitely.
You see, it shows you real world example.
Yeah, it's just like I remember hearing about the stories because it's like, yeah, like for some reason the older generation, it's like they start being more like conservative or like being like, no, you shouldn't be doing this, or you shouldn't be for like immigration rights or whatever. And it's just like, where does that come from? You know, like, why is it that it kind of just happens that way?
No, yeah, it definitely comes. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
It definitely. He was talking about how like it's all very connected. Like, I mean, the erasure of like history.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you think people tend to like they remove this like idea that you are native. It's like that idea, right? When you tear down communities and you tear down buildings that have historical like significance to the community, it really does give the appearance that there is nothing here.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we found it. Like the Euro Angelinos found it. Like there wasn't anything here, you know? And I think because a lot of people tend to like not know that, and who's to say whether it's their fault or not, because I mean they're kind of victims of the system that kind of wanted that outcome to begin with. A lot of people don't really know that, you know, and they kind of live with that mindset that that people want. And he also talks about how like when you do that, like the people who don't have like a history become victims and very susceptible to the will of the dominant force. Yeah. Because they don't like to them. There's no reference of us being here. We have no power, you know. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah, but there's a lot of history here, especially in LA. There's a lot of it here of like our Black and brown communities, you know. We kind of built the city, and now it's starting to get erased. And I feel like, I don't know, I think we should still continue, I guess, telling those stories, right? Still telling the stories of like our history and like passing those along. And that's why I feel like, I guess going back to reconnecting, it's just like, that's why I strongly am trying to reconnect to like my own roots. Because I feel like I don't want those, and especially I think we talked about it last episode, where it's like even like the cooking and like all that stuff, like foods that like my parents grew up eating, you know, like I want to pass those along so that they're not forgotten, you know, and kind of like, because I always think of I might spoil it a little bit, but we were watching Black Mirror, and like where she was talking about her food, and they judged her because she's Indian, she's eating like Indian food, and they're like, oh, it smells or whatever.
Is that the demon one?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like she's eating her food, and they criticize her that her food smells or whatever. And it's just like, and I don't know, I get it that it's like very different foods and like spices and everything. And like some people might hear it or see it and it looks like mole, right? It's brown or whatever. And some people are like, that's weird or whatever. It's just like, no, like it's really good food from our culture. Like, and we should still present those, you know, and like show that like these are our foods and like they're really good. And, you know, like passing those along to our families. 'Cause especially for me, right? I'm like in a biracial relationship, like you know, like passing those still down. Like I have those of my culture and stuff, and having that still within my family, or if I ever have a family when I'm older, you know, like having those still there implemented.
The responsibility to sustain that legacy.
Right. That's why I think what Nena's doing is like super important, like representation, because like, and what she said, like taking up space, because it like, I guess it like plants a flag of like, nah, like we exist, like we're here, you know. It's not like you can't just sweep it under the rug, you know. So yeah,
that's why I'm glad we had you on here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Just kind of wrapping things up, just one last thing that I guess I want to ask you is, as your first generation, right?
Yes.
As a first generation person, what is some advice you would have for other first generation people?
Don't give up. Behind fear there's success. That's one thing. So my mom is very like into dichos. So that's one thing she always tells us is that atrás del miedo hay éxito. Atrás del miedo hay dinero. And so one thing for me is to like get over like that fear and anxiety that like, oh, like what if it doesn't like turn out good, or like, oh, what if I fail? And those feelings are still very valid. Like it's okay to still have those feelings, but it's not okay to not try. So just keep going for it. Just keep trying, like shift things around. Like if this doesn't work, then try it another way. But if like you know in your heart that you want to do something, a todo lante, like just do it. Do what you gotta do, like hustle, work. And like honestly, I would just say just be as genuine as you can be. Because people see through that. People see that you're trying to be fake. If people see that you're trying to like put up a front, they see it, and it leaves like a bad taste in people's mouths. So I would just recommend like, you know, being genuine and being kind. I think being kind gets you like a lot and gets you everywhere. And trust the people around you. Have a strong support system, and because as much as sometimes we want to feel like we could do everything ourselves, it gets hard out here, and life happens and shit happens, and having that strong support system, whether it's family or friends, it's really good to have at the end of the day. I read somewhere, who said it? I don't know who said it, but it's the secret's not in the journey. The journey is who you know. Erase that.
Redo.
I'll remember it,
You know?
and I'll share it with you guys. But there's
right,
something
well,
about that.
Either way, everything else you said was a banger.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I just want to say thank you again for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you to my sister for helping you out, because when I was talking to her about the show, I was like, you're so excited because we have more women guests on. Yeah. So I hope
it's always just me on here.
I hope everybody listening and watching is having a good time. Have a good Thursday.
Definitely. Shout out to all our patrons, Yoel.
I almost forgot, not gonna lie.
Yoel, Cat Friend, and our newest addition to the wall, Jada Chicano. So if you want to be on the wall, go ahead and subscribe to our Patreon. But thanks again to Nena. Thank you for joining us. You were a lovely guest. I really enjoyed this podcast. But yeah, let the audience know where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram at s.st.phanie.
And then I will add links in the bio, description. I was thinking of Instagram. Yeah, but thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.